Let's check in with our panel members as to what they made of game number 2. We're all squared up, Charlie, 1-1.
Yeah, that game really comes down to the early rotations on crit. If that laning stage doesn't go well for OG, then Liquid gets their levels, they get their items, and then they can play at their own pace. But what you saw instead was OG establishes dominance in the laning phase, Liquid plays on the back foot, and then they have to play to OG's tempo. And OG's tempo is to play around their big team fight ultimates. And, you saw it in those Roche fights. There's no way Liquid contests when OG's ultimates are up.
And that's what won them the game was the Darkseer pick. It changed all their lanes up. They're expecting Void off lane versus Disruptor support. They can deal with that. Mid would have been something against Dragonite. Dragonite's fairly resilient in a 1v1, but not against a hero that can do 500 magic damage with 110 mana on a 30-second cooldown. It just made it so all of their lanes were gankable and facilitated crit to just need one. They just needed the one hero crit to rotate over and guarantee a kill in any lane, so it's hard to predict where he was going to be, and they just kept pounding the laning stage.
Yeah, OG really dictated the pace of the game, especially like we were commenting about crit on that Earth Spirit, but I just love the way that they did their lane setup. The Juggernaut mid, it's a change-up, but it gives that kill potential on the Dragonite. Very tanky hero, isn't susceptible to just physical damage right clicks. Well, you don't need it then. You just spin on him with a rolling boulder, and it ended up being like perfect setups. I really have to commend OG on their early game movements, but not just from crit, but also from fly. They were like that duo in the first, like they show up top lane, the both of them are there. They go mid lane, both of them are there. They go bottom lane, both of them are there. It was just beautiful, perfect rotations. Liquid, they didn't, it's not even like they played poorly in this game, honestly. OG just looked unstoppable.
Yeah, OG did all the right moves, and one of those right moves was actually No-Tail picking up a very unconventional Lincoln Sphere. If he correctly identified that the only way he gets stopped like beating on somebody in a Chronosphere is with Roar. He still has damage because he has a Darkseer Ion Shell on him, and they're so far ahead that he can afford to go something like a Lincoln Sphere and an Aghanim Scepter because they still have damage, and the only way they stop him is countered by the Lincolns.
Yeah, going the Aghanims was also very smart. Like Gods was saying, like the casters were saying, they have to Liquid trying to fight into OG's team fight is nearly impossible from the start that they had. And going for Aghanims, it's every 60-second Chronosphere.
Yep, so basically he just Chronos one guy, they Sunray in the back, and he's missing half of his HP, if not more, if there aren't more heroes there. So.
And here we have to give the MVP to crit this game.
MVP crit, I mean, Miracle had a great game, 16-2-9 on that Juggernaut, back to where we would expect him to be in the game, but it was crit that enabled that.
Absolutely. Took the words out of my mouth.
The enabler.
The enabler.
It's basically a reverse of game 1, is what that felt like to me.
Yeah, it did, didn't it?
It's
Absolutely.
like super stomp, just completely different teams.
That's what you want in these grand finals, though. Both teams playing really well, but the first game, it was just like Liquid making the first moves, looking absolutely perfect. Now OG making all the first moves, looking absolutely perfect. It's like, this is the dream.
Yeah, we'll go through the highlights. Charlie, what does it do for their mentality, though? Because we heard about OG's mentality. They're very strong. They don't mind if they go behind. But if they've gone 2-0 down in the grand final, that's when it starts becoming a problem, right?
That's incredibly worrying. I mean, how many times have we seen a team come back from an 0-2 deficit?
Yeah.
Very, very rarely. That's, if you can do that, like your mental strength, bow to you. But, we got a 1-1 series here, guys, and I think it really comes down to the laning phase. Like in both games, you see the team that gets out ahead early is the one that controls the pace of the game.
Comes back to drafting, of course, as well, as to what they draft and how they draft. Who do you think has had the upper hand? I asked a similar question to Aldi and Gods. Who do you think has had the upper hand so far?
I still want to give it to Liquid. I think, yes, OG won Game 2 and it looked really good for them, but if everything didn't go correctly for them in the early laning phase, then that game gets really hard. Crit and Fly had to do so many things right, their timing had to be absolutely perfect for them to really come out ahead.
Yeah, you mentioned already, Fog, that Darkseer last pick was sort of key to them being able to do what they did in that second game.
Yeah, it just really allowed them to pressure all 3 lanes in a way. The Earth Spirit could go to any one of them and make the setup for a gank. It was really beautiful to watch, honestly. Like, it was unfortunate for Liquid, but OG just showed their resilience here.
In a lot of ways, the draft was a little bit reminiscent between game 1 and 2. It was always that last pick, changing everything up and being the solution to what they needed. So if both teams can just always identify what they need, it's so hard, especially if it's a random pick. I mean, Darkseer's not that random, but it was a little out of nowhere based on their typical offlane in their mid. If they can just pull the perfect hero out last and then play it correctly, it can give them such a big upper hand.
You know what I like too? Liquid has like this things that we've been seeing. I guess you could call the standard at this point at this tournament. They have Lycan strength core, Slardar strength core, Dragon Knight strength core, and then Beastmaster support. But he's also a strength, kind of a strength core. Yeah. OG took a completely different approach this game. They have a Void, who's agility, obviously. Juggernaut, who's agility. They literally have like basically no strength heroes as their actual core heroes.
And we've seen it the other way around from OG as well. I remember back at Epicenter, they just went the whole team. All strength.
All strength.
All 5.
But the important distinction is that all the heroes that they picked have a lot of magic damage.
And this
or pure damage, and that's a solution to high armor heroes, like strength usually are.
Yeah, and this situation right here is just like Charlie was pointing out. Like, Liquid running into OG's team fight is impossible, honestly. Like, because of the way their laning phase started, they have so many levels, and they're in the proper position, and they're able to go for that Roshan. They take it down quite quickly without losing much health. Fly in perfect position, just chilling on the high ground. No-Tail in great position as well. And yeah, everybody just needs to basically click their ultimate, and Liquid cannot run into it. It's so difficult for them.
Liquid was very worried in a lot of these fights. You could see Fada kind of going in and out. If not everybody on Liquid is on the same page, they're going to lose fights like this. They maybe could have won that with the Roar, but they had to kill Miracle during that duration. And that's just the hard part from being about being behind. You don't feel as confident, especially when you have a hero that's not very good defensively, like Disruptor. Disruptor's looked amazing throughout the tournament, but in this game it looked terrible, because if you're getting dived under a tower, Glimpse doesn't really save you. It doesn't save an ally in a lot of cases. Kinetic Field is very hard to get effective use out of it. It was a very difficult game with the heroes Liquid had.
Do you feel that there was a couple of mistakes creeping in as well? Or was that just as a result of the fact that they were behind and they were trying to feel their way back into the team fights?
I feel it's like it's mostly just a result of playing from behind, and something that Fog mentioned, they had 4 strength heroes, but you know what's great against that? Phoenix and Sunray.
Yeah, and they, even though they were playing from behind and they made a few of the mistakes, I think that's just going to happen when you're getting pressured so hard. Like, OG just looked so commanding in this game. Like, you have to give them so much credit. They played so well, so perfect.
Yeah, I think we'll leave that on a positive note for this particular game and call that one an OG victory. It's 1-1 now, tied up nicely. We mentioned the Illuminati circle earlier on. It's on.
The potential is there.
It is.
You're excited.
Well, I just want to see 5 games. I don't even care about the 3-1 right now. I just want to
4
see
games, that's not enough. 4 games ain't enough.
4's not enough. We want 5.
Pretty likely. I mean, if it's 1-1, where we've basically reset.
Yeah, I mean, this is now a best of 3. Yep. It's a best of 3. Albeit, what's slightly different about this is that we talked about the mini meta within the final, because it is the 5 games that you have to take into account of, okay, what did they draft game 1? What did we pick? What did they going to pick game 2? What did we do game 3? And that continues all the way through.
Yeah, and that comes down to, is Timbersaw the perfect hero? Does Darkseer make our lanes really good? Liquid's going to feel way less comfortable drafting Dragon Knight now that they have to worry about that kind of magic damage roam.
Does OG pick a Meepo game 3 because they can, because it's tied up, or do they wait until they're behind at 2-1 and then spring it out and then make it 2-2? There's so many things.
You really want that Meepo?
I do. I want to see 1. Just 1.
Add it to 95 heroes picked. Why not, right?
We have maybe 3 games left over. We'll see. Lots of room left for maybe a Meepo, maybe a Huskar. But you know, you got to keep track of all of these things in your minds. There's so many different counters. The meta is so diverse right now. It's really a test for captains.
Yeah.
Interesting. What are we going to see then? Game 3. What do you want to see, Purge?
I think we're going to see a very predictable 3 to 4 heroes, and then right at the end we're going to see something that counters the enemy draft. Like, that's the scary part about it. It's actually very reminiscent of the Epicenter finals. It was very similar to this. It was like one team would stomp, then the other team would stomp, then the other team would stomp, and then game 5 was a little bit more decisive. But
best of 5s are pretty much the battle of endurance. It's just like how resilient can you be, and how much can you endure, and what can you learn each game to game about the other team. And like Paul was saying, will we see the new meta coming out between these 2 teams just for this series? And it looks like it's being answered. Yeah. Anything new, Charlie? Game 3? Ooh. Anything diverting away from what we've been doing? I think you will. We saw it in the last series with Liquid versus Newbie when they pulled out the Drone Medusa. Never seen before from them. I don't think they've even run it that much in practice that much either. No. I mean, Fly said that they committed to practicing that, or at least practicing the hero in terms of play style, but not in terms of practicing it against anyone else. That was completely out of the blue. Is he got any more tricks up there? I asked this in the lower bracket because we've seen quite a lot of Liquid all the way through the lower bracket. They played more games than anyone else. You kind of get used to what they're going to serve up, and then suddenly from nowhere they bring that out. Have they got another one of those? I hope so. You know what? At this point, if you're a team that doesn't have tricks up your sleeve, if you're a team that isn't diverse and deep, then
you're probably not going to win very many tournaments.
Yeah, do you think that maybe affected Newbie and LGD, that they made these long runs, and not so much Newbie perhaps, but LGD in particular, who had a kind of similar play style to the way they played every round? We kind of knew they were going to be a bit cautious in team fights. We knew they were going to pick fairly similarly all the way through. There was nothing innovative about their drafts, and maybe that hurt them the further they went through.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you go through these matches, and people watch you all the time, and you're going to get figured out. So you do have to change it up. You have to show other teams' weapons that they're scared of and that they have to react to.
It was something I think about in each of the drafts. We're not too far away from the draft for Game 3. So, Fogged, you've stayed quite quiet on this subject. What do you anticipate for Game 3?
I think we'll see, just like what Kevin was saying. I think he made up a really good point. You know, we'll see the very similar 4 or 5, maybe 6 heroes, and then teams will look and be like, okay, now we start doing the full counter picking and full, like, this is where the brain power comes in. This is where the prowess comes in.
You think we'll still see it in Game 3? You don't think Game 3 is the risky game that you can maybe take a risk and gamble on something that might win you the game and give you the edge?
You can't think that way, I don't think.
Yeah.
You got to look at the draft and take it as it is. Imagine it's the best of one. You got to get the best thing you can, the best heroes for the problem, and play them as well as you can.
Yep. This is a captain's game, right here.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Captain versus captain,
And
brain versus brain.
Both teams really have faith in their captains as well, so that's what makes it so interesting. And it seems like they're fine spreading out their hero pools a little bit. So
good play so far from the supports. Have you been impressed?
Yeah, I love watching. Both these teams actually have just incredibly good supports. We commented about it like a couple panels ago. I remember it's like, what's the 2 standout support? I remember it was a question actually. It was a media question, social media question. It was like, what support duo really stands out to you? And I actually said Crit and Fly, just because those two, like even in the last game we saw, they're always just like clicking together. They're always just like running around together, and it really shined last game.
Yeah. It's not like their opponents don't have decent supports either. I mean,
oh, of course not. But
fantastic supports in the entire game.
The ones that like stood out to me when I read that question, just because at least I thought back to Frankfurt from the defensive meta. You know, I was just, those two had like the plays that they did were so split second with the way that they saved each other.